Welcome you all to our session on how do we make HR agile. I'm Princey Belinda and I work as a product specialist with Zoho People. And along with me, we have Nick Hawley to lead the session today. So for the people who do not know Nick, well, there's a little intro. So Nick has over 40 years of experience in the HR industry, and he's worked with global businesses like Arthur Andersen, and he's been the director of global people development at Vodafone. He's also been a facilitator for HR leadership teams in companies like HSBC, Qatar, and Qatar National Bank. So currently, he is the director of learning at the Corporate Research Forum. So thank you, Nick, and thank you for joining our session today. So let's just take a quick look at the agenda. So first, Nick will be talking about how HR can become agile, and also followed by that, we'll have a short session on Zoho People and how it can help you build agility. And followed by that, we'll have a question and answer session in the end where Nick will be live to answer all your questions. So please note that this is, you are in the listen only mode and the session is also being recorded. So if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the questions bar on your left panel. So that's about it. So Nick, over to you.
Great, thank you very much indeed. So the first thing I'd say is this can be a very boring session if I just talk at you for the next hour. I've been trying to get some interaction going on chat, and some of you are interacting, which is great. So please use chat to stop me and ask any questions. The title is How Do We Make HR Agile? And I chose the words very specifically because I think the danger is we talk about how to implement Agile. And, you know, having had 40 years in business, I have seen every fad and silver bullet and bright, shiny toy that consultants like to sell to us in HR. I've been through TQM and you know, it used to be employee engagement and now it's employee experience, and we're full of all of these jargons. All of them to me have an essence at the center of them that is good. But the danger is they become a product that people like to sell to us. So we're going to do Agile. I think the real challenge is how do we help HR become more agile? And what I want to do is I want to move back to think about the Agile Manifesto, to what is at the absolute core of this concept of agility. First of all, in chat, can anybody tell me when was the Agile Manifesto written? Because clearly Agile is something absolutely brand new. So can anybody tell me, give me a guess in chat, when was the Agile Manifesto written? 2005, not bad. Anybody else? Because most people think it was kind of last year. Michael, thank you. 2001. It was written in 2001. So, you know, it's 20 years that we've been doing this. So what I want to do is I'm going to go back to the Agile Manifesto, to the 12 principles. I'm going to run them through. At the end, I'm going to have a poll where I'm going to ask you to say, as an HR function, not as an individual, where are you weakest? What are the three that you're weakest? So we'll do a Mentimeter poll. So if you have your phones ready, I'll show you a QR code and then you can have a vote. But what you might want to do is, as we go through each one, maybe score your HR function on how good you are. Because I think that there is a lot of wisdom in the core concepts of Agile. But I think, you know, we turned it into this jargon around scrums and all of this kind of stuff. But to me, these 12 principles are the key to how we can be agile. And to me, the first principle of agile is we put the customer first. So, bit of interaction on chat. Who is the customer of HR? and don't put Bob, but who in general, or feel free, but who in general, who are employees, including Bob? Interesting. I think we're getting there with Paul and IL. My apologies if I haven't pronounced Paul very well. Well, actually, apologies, IL, if I haven't pronounced it very well. I disagree. I do not think that employees are our customer. I think the organization is our customer. And the organization is made up of a number of different people. But ultimately, I think, thanks, IL, I think the customer is the long-term sustainability of the organization. I absolutely do not believe that the managers are our customers. I think there's a real danger that if the managers are our customers, we'll do whatever they want. Whereas I'm very clear in my mind, and the wording's important, our customer is the long-term sustainability of the organization. Now, there are a number of stakeholders. Clearly, the shareholders are a really important stakeholder. And we need to think in HR, how do we create value ultimately for our owners? I don't necessarily think that the employees are our customers, because the danger is we think our job is just to make our employees happy. I think employees are a key stakeholder in the organization, but the organization is the customer. Now, I am pretty sure some of you will not like that and will find that quite shocking. But I think that, to me, the people who represent the employees are the unions or the works councils or whoever. But we work for the organization. So that's the first point. And what we always do, and this is the second important point about putting customer first, we always put the organization ahead of HR. And I think too many people in HR, their loyalty is to HR. Their loyalty should be to the organization. I think that the purpose of HR is not to do HR stuff. That's what we do, but it's not our purpose. Our purpose is to build the capability of our organization to deliver its strategy and to create sustainable value for all our key stakeholders. Shareholders, employees, customers. Also, it's about the end user of the organization. So that's my first point. So again, score your function. Do you think about the customer first or HR first? The second point of the manifesto is welcome change. And I get very nervous that a lot of people in HR actually really don't like change. And in fact, let me ask you a quick question in chat. How many of you like change? Obviously, I've kind of given you the answer, but I still want to ask the question. How many of you in chat like change? Yay, Sandra. Come on, a few more people. How many of you like change? And how many of you are going to be honest? It's not always welcome. Absolutely. Sometimes, yep. Change management is critical. I will come back to that. It depends. Let me ask you a second question. How many of you like being changed? Fundamentally different. But most people intellectually understand change, but they don't necessarily like being changed. Now, Reed, I agree with you. Intellectually, clearly, change means growth, but change can also be a threat for people. And I think a lot of people in HR actually don't like change because they don't like risk. I see a lot of HR people think that their job is keeping their business out of trouble, and they almost become the guardians of the corporate no. You can't do that because of our policy, because of the risk, because of employment law, as opposed to actually understanding why we need to change. And in that environment, we need to think about how, as HR, we can lead change. Because, Reid said earlier, change management is critical. Everything we do in HR is about managing change. Earlier you were asking about a new appraisal system. That's change. So what is really, really important, and thanks, Troy, for your point there. Sorry, just 1 second. I just need to shut my door because my wife's shouting at my dog. 1 second. Right, that's better. Sorry about that. I had to do a little bit of change there. I had to pivot and adapt. The dog doesn't like change. Absolutely not. He likes food, but nothing else. In fact, actually mentioning my wife, I've got a little example of people not liking change. I've been married to my wife for 40 years now, and she sleeps on this side of the bed and I sleep on this side of the bed. So I tried a little change experiment. While she was getting ready for bed, I just inched across and lay on the other side of the bed. She came in. "What are you doing on my side of the bed?" And I said, "I don't think there's any rule that says," "Oh, yes, it is. Get back on." So even a little change like that, most people don't like being changed. We in HR need to be the catalyst for change, and we need to develop deep expertise in change management. I'm going to talk about this later. HR is based around deep expertise, not about being an amateur. Change management is fundamental. Deliver at speed. So I'm going to ask you a question here. It is August 2019. So it's the fall of 2019. Your boss has asked you to put together a team to make some recommendations to take half your workforce to working from home. How long do you think it will have taken you in August 2019 to put together the team, to brief them, get them to do their research, come up with the recommendations, get them past the stakeholders? "Oh, we can't work from home. We're a people business. We need to interact." Make the recommendations, get them approved and implemented. So Paul, 1 to 3 years. Reid, 10 to 18 months. Anybody else? How long would it have taken you? Be honest. It's not a test. Come on, bit of interaction. 6 months? Brilliant. Yep. Okay. It is now March 2020. How long did it take you to do it? 2 days. 1 week. So why did it take 6 months before? I did this with one group and they said, "Never, we'll never be able to do that." And yet in a crisis, we could work at speed. Now, the question to me is, why couldn't we be as fast before? What can we learn from last year to understand what was slowing us down? Because I don't know your companies, but in a lot of companies, one of the key sources of competitive advantage is speed to market. And therefore, I see businesses who are making business decisions in a matter of weeks. And yet HR takes a year, 6 months. And again, because we've got to go through all the plow, we've got to, Paul, you're absolutely right. We need to move at the speed our business moves at. And we need to think what we can learn to move at speed. The next principle of the Agile Manifesto is collaborate every day. And I have a little worry in my research and my observation of a lot of HR. How many of you have implemented the Ulrich model? The Shared services, HR business partners, centers of excellence, these three elements of HR. How many of you have implemented that model? And by the way, Dave's a very good friend of mine. I've worked a lot with him. I'm not criticizing the model, but how many of you have got that model? Because it's become the traditional model of HR. I'll give you a chance to think on it, but I'll keep going. The problem to me is often you see it drawn as three circles with white space in between. And I think this is a huge mistake. We need to think about those three circles as interlocking circles with the business at the center. Because what I've observed in implementing the model, it's tended to split HR up into sometimes even warring functions that don't talk to each other. During my research, I talked to quite a senior business partner. I said, so do you collaborate? Do you speak to your head of learning and development? And he said, of course I speak to her. She sits across me, across the aisle. And whenever she has a problem, I'll speak to her. And it's kind of, well, no, that's not really what I mean by collaboration. We need to recognize that people don't care what part of HR you're from. All they care about is, can you help them deliver their numbers? And we need to work together. One of my passions is HR as a team sport. I know of very few HR solutions that can be driven in isolation out of one part of HR. You know, I was working with an organization, when was it? Last week. It was Thursday. And they were moving from selling products to selling solutions. And they put in place a new sales academy to retrain their sales force. So I said, so what have you done with your sales incentive scheme? Well, it's the same. But hang on a minute, you're incentivizing totally different behaviors. Yeah, but I'm in L&D. We don't really like to work with our colleagues in reward, which is ridiculous. We need to think as one joined up systemic team and work together to deliver solutions. So the next thing is that, and this is really important, HR is not the people function. Really, really important. I personally don't like this concept of the chief people officer, because yes, we need to recruit motivated people. And by the way, the words are important. It's not just recruiting technically great people. You've got to recruit people who are genuinely motivated. But the key thing for me is, how do you create the environment in which they can perform? I've worked in organizations with great people, but with a horrible culture, and consistently they don't deliver. The great organizations and the great HR functions think not just about the individuals, but the context. How do we create the culture that helps every single one of our people be the best they can be? And by the way, this is not, do any of, I don't know if any of you have the 9-box matrix, potential performance, you put everybody into a box. I hate it, because you're basing where you put people on the view of line managers, which is totally subjective and full of unconscious bias. But then when we put them in a box, we think it's a fact. The other thing which really worries me is that we are then drawn to the high potentials, the high performers. Whereas I think the role of HR is to get your average people, bearing in mind your average people are 65, 70% of your people are average. It's how can you improve their performance by 1 or 2%? How can you create a great culture in which everybody can be the best they can be? Not just creating a culture for your high performers and high potentials. And by the way, I also don't like telling people they're high potential, high performer, because they become ALFs. Now, I don't know if any of you have seen the television series. There was a kids program called ALF. Can anybody tell me what ALF stands for? And I totally agree, Reed. Alien life form. Paul, not in this case. In this case, they become ALFs, which stands for arrogant little. I can't say the last word, but it begins in F. Anyway, and I think it's a real danger. We should create a great environment and then trust them. If you put people into roles that suit them, do you know what? I don't know about you. I think the majority of people come to work to do a good job. So why do we manage our people on the basis of the small minority who don't? Let's create a great environment. So HR is not the people function, it's the people and organizational function. The next part is face-to-face. So the Agile Manifesto talks about face-to-face. Now, it's more difficult now because we're in a virtual world. But somebody earlier, see if I can roll up there. Somebody earlier said they were working in a virtual environment already. I'm not good enough to be able to see who said that. But my suspicion is you still communicated face to face. And do you know what? I've actually seen more interaction through Zoom or Teams or Zoho, Showtime or whatever. All of these tools are great. Thanks, Reed. You see, you're a true HR professional because you remember the names of people. I can't even remember my wife's name. But anyway, in fact, what really worries me at 61, I'm starting to forget my own name. Anyway, we need to work even harder in this virtual environment to communicate face to face. And I think actually in the virtual environment, it actually makes communication easier for introverts. We thought face to face, real face to face got interaction going. I think it got interaction going much more for the extroverts than the introverts. So let's make sure that in HR, we talk to our people, not sit in our office talking to other HR people. Let's get out there. And during lockdown, in this environment, we've just got to work harder at that. I think this is an area where we're bad. I think there's a real danger that in HR, we measure the completion of an HR process rather than the business outcome that the process is there to deliver. So I was working with an investment bank and they told me they had a brilliant succession planning process. So I said, so how do you know you've got a brilliant succession planning process? They said, well, we have 96% 1-1-2. So I said, so what do you mean by that? I said, so for our top 300, for 96% of the roles, we have one named emergency successor, one named successor ready within a year, and two successors ready within 5 years with development. So is that good? Again, I'm looking for interaction here. Is that good? Is that a good measure of success? So I wasn't sure. So I asked them a question. So I said, with your top 300, where somebody has left one of their roles, in what percentage of times have you replaced them with somebody identified on your succession plan? So where somebody has left the role, what percentage of times have you replaced them with somebody identified in your succession plan with 96% coverage? Can anybody tell me on chat, what do you think the number was that they came out with? What was the answer to my question? You're pretty close, Jacinthia. So the interesting thing was, the first answer to my question was, we don't know. We've never measured that. But Nick, that's a really good question. So we're going to go away and measure it. They came back 8%. So think of the amount of time people were wasting filling names out that nobody then used. Think of the amount of time. And it made them think they had a great succession plan. But actually, when you looked at the names, you'd find the same name down for 45 different roles. You'd find this person at some senior vice president level as a successor for somebody who's at the supervisory. It was ridiculous. We've got to focus on measuring outcomes, business outcomes, not the completion of HR processes. So, whoops, I don't know how that happened. Sustainability. I mentioned earlier, one of the roles of HR is to create sustainable value for all its key stakeholders. Most finance people push for just for the short term. So what they'll do, for instance, is, and this, by the way, is a Harvard Business School study, 80% of CFOs, finance directors, will cut R&D spend, cut marketing spend, cut learning and development spend just to deliver their quarterly numbers. We need to be the balance to talk about long-term sustainability. If we cut our marketing numbers this quarter, where are new customers going to come from? If we cut our R&D spend, where are new products going to come from? If we cut our learning and development spend, how are we going to keep our good people? How are we going to develop our good people? But you get the finance person saying, but Nick, what happens if we spend money on developing our people and they leave? And of course, the answer is, yeah, but what happens if we don't spend money on their development and they stay? We need to focus on long-term sustainability, on the infinite game, as Reid calls it. Technical excellence and good design. And I'm going to balance this in a second. In HR, we need to be technically excellent. There is a whole core of theory that sits underneath our business. Principles of organizational performance, adult learning principles, systemic thinking, human psychology, etc., etc. I could go on. And I work with an organization of HR headhunters. And what they tell me is increasingly they're coming across a lot of amateurs who actually haven't studied our profession, who haven't actually understood the art, the craft, and the science of HR. They asked one senior comp guy, why do you have an LTIP in your company? LTIP, long-term incentive plan. And he didn't know. And he said, well, I guess because everybody else has one. In fact, there's a professor in the US, Jerry Ledford, who's one of the top people on reward. And he said, the thing I hate about reward people is most of them, all they have is a photocopier. They just copy what everybody else is doing. We need to invest time in our own development, in understanding all the models, all the theories that underpin, but we need to use them in a pragmatic way. And the next principle is simplicity. And it comes back to that little conversation I was having before you all joined. Performance management is one example, for instance. I call it the Swiss Army knife of HR because it's all about let's add more and more functionality to it. When I was at Vodafone, in fact, no, let me not, because I'm giving away a number. Let's say I worked for a theoretical company. And this company, in one of their country subsidiaries, used a software tool to do their performance management. Every manager had to answer 135 different questions, had to fill out 135 different boxes. And I was saying, in a mobile phone business, if you're managing a call center, you might have 40 direct reports. And I came across managers taking 2 days holiday just to fill out the system. Now, don't get me wrong. Systems can really help automate and simplify and make our processes consistent. But let's make them simple. The title of an article I wrote was Performance Management, the Giant Soul-Sucking Parasitic Monster of HR. Let's take the design principle from Agile, which is KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. There's a famous philosopher in medieval England called Sir Thomas Occam. And he invented the concept of Occam's razor. It's worth having a look on Wikipedia. What Thomas Occam talked about is you have a problem, you need to get your razor, you need to slice away everything until you come to the essence at the center. So let's simplify down to what is the problem we're really trying to solve, and let's come up with the simplest solution we possibly can. And let's use technology to help support that. The next principle is self-organized teams. You know, we need to empower teams in our organizations to get on and do a good job. You know, we should not overmanage them. HR's role is not to tell people what to do. HR's role is to recruit, get great people, fit them to roles they're good at, and then let them get on with it. The final principle is reflection. And I think too often we are busy, busy, busy. I don't think we are good enough at prioritizing and stop doing things that don't matter. And in particular, it comes back to the very beginning. If you think you work for line managers, the danger is you're driven by being liked by them and you do whatever they ask you to do. And then you have no time to stop and reflect. You know, the great thing is you're all using the opportunity to reflect today. And I don't think there's anything I've said that's rocket science or amazing. I think the value of these sessions is just getting off the treadmill and spending a little bit of time reflecting. You know, I run a leadership program for, I'll just say it's one of the biggest US banks, 370,000 employees. And I run a leadership program for their managing directors. And in the good old days, when we go off to a hotel, we'd have a little fireside chat where the chief executive of this, one of the biggest, I think they are the biggest bank in the world, came along and chatted to them. And somebody said, so what did you learn in the crisis in 2007, 8, 9? And he said, my learning point was I was reacting to every little crisis and I wasn't stopping and thinking. And what I do now is I spend half a day every single week, not doing, but thinking and reflecting. Now, I'm sure all of you are going to say, but I can't spend half a day reflecting every week. And I think you're probably right. But half an hour maybe? But actually carving out and protecting time to stop and think, I think is absolutely critical. So let's see how you score. Now, I've just thought of one thing, Princey. I need to show something from outside. Am I going to be able to do that?
Yes, Nick, you can go ahead and share your screen.
Oh, I see a screen share. Brilliant. So I'll do that in a second. But in the meantime, all you need to do is just open your camera and hover over that QR code. And it will then open a site called menti.com. If you open it directly, it will show you the poll. Otherwise, if in your browser, just enter menti.com.
I guess Nick's connection was lost, so it would be great if you could please stay online for a few minutes.
And I see 51 people. So once we start getting up to 50 odd, I will share my screen and I'll show you the result. But this is a chance to reflect and think. And I'm not going to say anything or show you because otherwise it's called the Hawthorne effect. You'll see what other people are doing and it'll influence your results. Okay, so we're up to 19 people. So keep voting. what we'll do is we'll finish the poll. So half of you have voted, and it's interesting. Measurement comes out as the strongest, and I do think there's a serious issue here in HR that we measure what we can measure rather than what matters. And I think we really need to become much better at measuring what matters. And again, not to us, but what matters to our business. If our customers are the business, we need to measure things that matter to them, like productivity, etc. Reflection, I think it's a real challenge for people to carve out time. But I work with HR and with senior leaders, and the people who carve out time are far more effective because they focus on the things that make the biggest difference rather than just being busy. I think speed, I think we really need to learn from what happened a year ago and just think, how can we be faster? And change, how can we become better at change? So let me come out, stop sharing. So hopefully we're back on the main screen now. Princey, over to you. I'll go on silent for a second, and I know you have some things to share as well.
Yes, Nick, thank you so much. It was a wonderful session, and I guess others would agree too. So let me just share my screen. All right, so I guess everyone's able to see my screen. So, all right. Okay, so all this while Nick was talking about how HR can build agility through the various principles of the Agile Manifesto. So where does technology really come into play? So agility is more about adapting to the changes in the business environment and the ability to deliver at speed, right? So the implementation and the delivery part is where technology really comes into play. So let's see how Zoho People can help you build agile processes. So one of the first experiences that an employee has with an organization is the onboarding experience, right? So if you were to create an onboarding process that's similar to every new hire, then it wouldn't really make sense, right? So Zoho People helps you customize your onboarding experience for your employees based on the experience or their job roles or just about any requirement that you have. And it doesn't just stop with the paperwork, but it also brings in collaboration with the team members. It also helps you set objectives and helps the employee, the new hire, to start with a good performance. And the most important aspect is employees will need help during every step of the onboarding process. So the HR contact is listed right there, and they can message them immediately whenever they need help. So that is a personalized onboarding experience that you will be able to deliver with Zoho People. And collaboration is a key aspect when we are talking about building an agile workforce, right? So this way, Zoho People comes with a built-in integration with Zoho Click that will help employees connect with each other irrespective of their geographical boundaries. So they can get on instant video calls, audio calls, and even screen share for better collaboration. So as Nick was saying, performance management should have an agile approach, and it shouldn't just be the manager rating the employee, but should be an inclusive process where we also have employees coming in. So Zoho People lets you set KRAs and goals that will help self-managed teams to align their goals with the bigger picture. And instant feedback is something that's really important in today's world of work. So, and especially with all of us working remotely, a 360-degree feedback system is sure to help us. And the system also provides a continuous assessment system. So every quarter or based on any timeline that you want, you'll be able to a one-on-one with the managers and help employees assess their performance. And this also comes with self-appraisal. So this gives employees a chance to pause, step back, and look at their performance and see how they can improve in their work. So with learning and development, there's never a bad time to upskill or reskill, right? And this continuous learning approach is what is required in today's world of work. And and again, learning should be customized to the employees' needs based on their skill sets and based on the skill gaps that the company has. So Zoho People allows you to come up with learning plans and outcomes that are specific to a certain group of people. And we also support self-paced and instructor-led courses so that employees can adapt to different styles of learning. And agility is also about iterating your process as you grow. So gathering feedback and working on it and developing your process based on the feedback from employees is very important. And in an agile system, I guess each of your functions should be integrated, should be able to talk to one another. So Zoho People has a direct integration with the performance and the learning management systems. So this way, managers can suggest the best courses that the employee, that their reportees would need. They can assess skill gaps and suggest courses and help them improve in their career. So far, what we were talking about was both including the employees and their experience too. But now we're going to talk about how technology will be able to help customize your processes and help you able to simplify your processes, would be the best way to say. So if you have a complex process and it's taking a lot of time and you just want to automate it, you should be able to do that in a few days or in a matter of few seconds. So Zoho People allows you to add any number of workflows to your list and add the associated task and build your entire processes here. And Blueprint is another option that helps you foolproof your processes. You can have a check at every stage and follow up where your process is heading. So this way nothing gets overlooked in your entire, when you build a complete process. So Zoho People is not just about the services we provide, but we help you customize and come up with your own services apart from what we provide. So right from the workflows to what kind of processes you need, what kind of approvals you need, all of that can be customized based on your requirements. So that's end-to-end customization. Doesn't just stop with delivering services. It also, you should also be able to help employees when they need them. So with the case management feature, you will be able to add an agent for every service that you create, and this way you'll be able to efficiently handle the process and also excel in your service delivery part. So once you are done with your processes, once you give a great digital experience to your employees, it doesn't just stop there, but you need to measure your outcomes. So Zoho People comes with an integration with Zoho Analytics for advanced analytics, and this will help you visualize how your employees are performing and how your company is performing, your hiring trends, and it will also help you predict hiring and attrition trends. And you'll also be able to create your own reports with the available data in the system. So with just a simple drag and drop option, you'll be able to create your any kind of reports that you would require. So all that we spoke here now comes as a well-knit system. So this integrated approach is what is going to help you become agile. And there's a lot more to the product, and feel free to go and sign up for the product and take a trial. We have a 30-day trial option. So that's pretty much about Zoho People. You can visit us at zoho.com/people, or if you have any questions at any time, you can write to us at webinars@zohopeople.com. And also you can join a HR community. So in the left panel, we've given a link to the HR community. So it's a space where HR professionals from around the globe come together and talk about, share their experiences, talk about HR best practices, and also Nick is a part of the community. So if you need any advice or if you want to share your experiences, please do join the community as well. So thank you, Nick, and thank you everybody who joined the session. It was a wonderful session, very interactive. So I guess that's it, and we hope to meet you in another webinar with Zoho People. Thank you.